Hello and welcome to this week's video. My name is Anuska Taylor. Thank you so much for joining me. And today's topic I think is going to resonate with many of you. This is called From Panic to Power. So if you experience any kind of anxiety when public speaking, or maybe you just don't do it at all, or you try and avoid it because you don't want to feel anxious, then this is the video for you, because I believe we all experience anxiety to a greater or lesser extent. So it's very universal. Now, I was inspired to do today's video because I'm actually running a session in person for a company in a few weeks. And I was doing a bit of research on this topic and I came across this amazing quote, which I thought would actually make a great video. Here we are. And the quote is from Fritz Perls, who was a psychoanalyst, psychotherapist, and was the founder of Gestalt therapy, if you've heard of that. And his quote is, "Fear is excitement without the breath." And just let that land for a minute. Fear is excitement without the breath. When I heard it, it was like, it's kind of what I already knew to be true, but he's just put it in a really nice, simple sentence. So that's what we're going to talk about today, and actually how you can start to work with the fear to step into your power as a speaker. So before I get going, if you haven't yet subscribed to my channel, please don't forget to hit that subscribe button. Also, don't forget to like, share, and comment. And if you have any ideas for videos you'd like me to cover, any topics, don't hesitate to comment below. And finally, all the links are below if you're interested in working with me, whether it's an online course or whether it's my signature 8-month private voice coaching program, Speak with Impact. But everything is below, and you can obviously check out everything on my website as well. So where do we start with this? Because as I said, I think this is a universal feeling. I don't think there's a person on this planet, even if they are a seasoned speaker, that hasn't had to deal with anxiety. And I would argue even they probably still have to deal with it, but they've just got better at channeling it. And for me, I mean, most of my life I have spent singing on stages, and I do public speaking as well. And a lot of the speaking has often been between songs if I've been singing. And I've really, really had to find a new relationship with anxiety around performance, anxiety around public speaking. So for me, it's really been about rechanneling that energy, rechanneling those nerves into excitement. And that's why when I saw this quote, I was like, yeah, he's hit the nail on the head. That is exactly it. So we can't get rid of the anxiety, but when we see it for what it really is, it doesn't have the same power over us. So that's really what I have learned to do. Now, that doesn't mean that the fear doesn't creep in and I don't get any anxiety at all, but I've got a lot better at channeling it into excitement, just rechanneling the energy, because all it is energy in the body. It's more how we label it and the stories we attach to it. However, let's just take a step back for a minute. So when we perceive danger, and danger could literally be a tiger chasing us, it could be a madman running around with a gun, or it could be, as we've just talked about, standing on stage and speaking or singing, to the mind, it responds the same. So the emotional center of our brain, the amygdala, gets triggered, the fight or flight response gets triggered, and this releases stress hormones into the body. So you've heard of things like cortisol. And what this does is it enables us to get away really quickly, the fight or flight. So either, depending on the situation, we might decide to fight or we might decide to run away. But either way, we need blood flow to the muscles. We need to be singularly focused. We can't be thinking about what am I doing later. We are very, very in our head in the moment. I need to get out of this situation. I need to get up that tree. I need to run away, or I need to use all my energy and fight this tiger or person to save my life. And it's very survival based. It's very survival driven. So it's very ego driven. And we need it, of course. We need it for when our life is really truly threatened. So it's very helpful. The problem is, for most of us, we perceive our life actually being threatened when it is standing on a stage and speaking. And so the body is just often, for many of us now, in this constant state of fight or flight. There's cortisol flooding our system. on a daily basis because we're always feeling kind of anxious. So the problem with this is because we're in this sort of tunnel vision that I have to get out of this situation, we're very in our head. How can I get away as quickly as possible? Or how can I kind of conjure up all the energy to fight whatever the threat is? We can't see possibilities. Now, of course, if your life is threatened, you probably don't care about seeing possibilities. You're just like, I just need to get out. But you can see how when this fear response is triggered in other situations, like you're preparing to speak on stage, that actually opening your mind and seeing other possibilities and other ways of viewing this can be helpful. But when we're in fight or flight, we are in total tunnel vision. We cannot see anything beyond this threat. We are completely in our head. We are completely disconnected from our body, and we are just trying to get away, literally and figuratively. But fear is really false evidence appearing real. And I really love that acronym, false evidence appearing real, because what it's really saying is you are not seeing the full possibility here. Because, and again, I'm not talking about if your life is threatened, but most of our fight or flight response is not triggered by our life being threatened. It's triggered by us standing on stage, starting a business, asking someone out, asking for a pay rise, having a difficult conversation with someone. Our life isn't actually threatened, yet our brain reacts, our mind reacts like it is. What you're really seeing then when you experience this fear is there's something more for me here. There's growth, there's possibility, there's expansion. And this is the bit that I think we miss. Now, again, we don't want to get into our head around this, but I think even if we can start to open it up to there is something really exciting sitting behind this fear. There is something that's trying to emerge. There is something that wants to expand and grow within me. And part of that is I have to leave my comfort zone. I have to let go of this old conditioned patterning, this old way of being, to step into something new. Now, the mind reacts like you're going to die, like you're being chased by a tiger, but obviously you're not. So again, we don't want to get rid of it, because if you are being chased by a tiger, this is very helpful. But for most of us, most of the time, our life is not threatened. This is our body responding like our life is threatened. And then all the stories we layer on top of this feeling, that's where the issue comes. Now, what's the alternative then? So first of all, just sort of opening your mind to, unless my life is literally threatened, fear is actually really showing me there's growth, there's expansion, there's something more for me here. I'm actually more powerful than I realize. And there is all this opportunity and possibility that my mind is kind of shutting down, my ego, because my ego is all about survival. And anything new to the ego is death, anything new. And so obviously it's going to be on a scale of extreme kind of newness to maybe a little bit of something new. But anytime we are doing anything we've never done before, there is going to be an element of anxiety, because that is the ego in motion. It wants to keep you in the status quo. So what can you do, assuming that you are moving towards something that is something you actually want to do? So speaking on stage, starting a business, having a challenging conversation with someone, or having a loving conversation with someone. It could be anything, something where you feel some anxiety. First of all, it's really about not making the feeling wrong. And what we tend to do as humans is we want to get away from anything that feels uncomfortable. So this doesn't feel good in my body. My heart's going, my palms are sweaty. I feel maybe a bit shaky. And so this is not good. I need to get away from this. But what we have to do is go towards it. We have to go into it, into the fear. And this is a big part of my work with shadow work, because in order to transcend and integrate the shadow, we have to go towards it. And what we tend to do is we run away from it, coming back to this survival mechanism. So we want to go towards it. We want to feel it. And it's so uncomfortable initially, but when we can view it with this new awareness, this new understanding that this isn't actually a threat to my life, this is actually the opposite. There is something new here that's trying to emerge. There is some new possibility, some opportunity for growth, some opportunity that I just can't see at the moment because my mind is clouded with all of this fear. So when we can really start to open ourselves up to this, then we can sit with the discomfort. We can sit with our heart going or whatever's going on in our body. Maybe we've got butterflies in our stomach. Maybe our hands are shaking. Maybe we've got sweaty palms, but we don't make it wrong. There is nothing wrong with you for feeling this, but we don't buy into the story that the ego is going to attach. And it's going to say, well, you feel like this because you're about to do public speaking. Therefore, you shouldn't do public speaking, which is the ego trying to keep you safe. Instead, you see it for what it really is. So the first step is you sit with it. You allow yourself to feel. And they say it takes about 90 seconds if we don't run away from a feeling for it to move through us. And one of the ways that we sit with it is we breathe into it, which is what Fritz was talking about here. So we breathe into it. So we feel that constriction in our chest. We feel the butterflies in our stomach. And we take some really deep breaths. We breathe in through the nose. And we allow the belly to swell like a balloon. And try this box breathing. So breathe in for sort of 4 seconds. Hold your breath for 4 seconds without tensing too much. And then breathe out through your mouth. And draw the belly gently in. So it's 4 seconds on the inhale, 4-second hold, 4-second on the exhale. But try and keep it quite relaxed and let the belly move in and out as you do this. Breathe in through the nose, out through the mouth. Now, you can do this if you were preparing to go on stage or preparing to speak in a meeting. You could do this very subtly and very quietly. No one would actually know that you were doing this. You don't have to go, you could do it very subtly. So this is what I do. If I am preparing to speak or sing on stage and I'm feeling anxious, I'll just go and sit somewhere and I'll just do this very quietly. And I will do this box breathing and I'll do a few rounds of it. And it just calms the nervous system. It actually stimulates the parasympathetic nervous system, the vagus nerve, which is really the anti-anxiety nerve. And it's brilliant for the voice as well. So it's a win-win. Now, then, importantly, depending on what the situation is, so you've calmed your nervous system. Now what happens is you can actually open the aperture, whereby before you were viewing the world through tunnel vision of panic and stress and now you've opened the aperture and now you can see, oh, okay, well, actually, it's not so bad after all. And maybe I could do this. And maybe if I did that, that might help me a little bit more. You might come up with some solutions and some ideas that you just cannot see when you're in your head, when you're fighting the feeling in your body and you are literally trying to run away from it. So this is the big piece. And as I say, what most of us do and what most of us are taught to do, let's be honest, is when something's uncomfortable, we take a pill, we distract, we run away, we go in and play with our children, our pets. We literally do anything but sit with the feeling and feel it. So that's my challenge to you. Can you sit with the feeling and breathe into it, breathe deeply into it, give it a good 90 seconds, and then it just has less control over you. And you'll find then that the more of these sort of steps you take outside of your comfort zone, the less of this anxiety you're going to feel. And when you do feel it, you're able to move through it quickly without stuffing it, without running away, without trying to avoid. Because as Carl Jung says, what we resist persists. So if you keep running away from it, it's just going to grow. You're going to feel more anxious and more anxious. So you want to really confront it. Otherwise, it's going to control you. So I hope this has helped. This, as I say, I think is a universal issue for us all. While we're human in a human body, we all feel this, including myself. So we have to learn to work with it and embrace the excitement in the feeling versus the fear. And we have to see it for what it really is. And when you do, then you are more courageous and you're able to take bigger steps, bigger leaps in your career, in your personal life. You're able to just take bigger risks because you're no longer controlled by this part of your mind that's literally just trying to keep you safe. So we don't make it wrong, but we don't buy into it either. So I hope that's helped. Any comments, questions, post them below, but I will see you next week. on my next week's video.